Welcome back to another episode of HU Flow. As always, for your host, my name's Steven. Right next to me is Marilyn. And today's guest is someone very important in the HU community. Her name is Faith Deanna. Faith, what's going on, my friend?
I'm good. I'm just chilling on this Thursday afternoon. It's quite sunny out. Good. It's good.
Feel you. So, Faith, first things first, like we always ask all our lovely guests here, what year are you in, and what's your major?
I am a junior in Harrisburg University, and my major is integrative sciences with a concentration in biochemistry.
Okay, so for those at home, what is basically your major in a nutshell? If you had to explain it to someone.
So if you take biology and you take chemistry, you basically mix them together, and you get something really, really difficult to understand. So if you're at home and you really like proteins, you go for biochemistry. If you like studying animals but also like the digestion in an animal, you go for biochemistry. It's taking the chemistry aspects of life, and that's what it is.
Okay. And then one more, my last question before I pass it off to Marilyn. Where are you from originally?
I am from Edgewater, New Jersey, which is a small little place in northern New Jersey. I'm like 5 minutes away from New York.
Okay, cool. All right, Marilyn, on to you.
All right, so why biochemistry? That's what I want to know. I am not into the sciences. What drives you there?
So ever since I was little, my mom was like, you're going to be a scientist. So like at the time I was like, I don't know, I want to be an astronaut. But, as I was growing up, it was always the science teachers that made me feel like I was smart. I always got the science. And then that reinforcement from the teachers, I was like, oh yeah, I want to do science with my life. And then I figured out like, well, what in the science field do I want to do? So I was always interested, as bad as it sounds, in drugs. I was always like, what happens when you take that pill? Like how does ibuprofen work? How does it know where the pain is? So I've always wanted to know, like, what about that? And then I started looking into research and development in drug development, and biochemistry would a degree in biochemistry would lead me to that career. Or if not, if that doesn't even work out, biochemistry is so vast that I can land a job somewhere else with my degree.
That's really cool. So knowing that, what made you decide to go to HU? Were there other options?
So I wasn't the best student in high school, and I'll admit that, like, plain out, I wasn't the best. But coming from a little town in New Jersey, the pressure is always Rutgers. Like, you got to apply to Rutgers. You can always go to Rutgers. And absolutely, maybe like 99% of my graduating class was going to Rutgers. And I didn't want to be reminded of high school every single day. I didn't want to see the people I already knew. So I looked out in Pennsylvania for schools, particularly STEM schools, because I wanted to go into that science field. So I was looking around and I was like, okay, I need to do something cheap, something that I can afford. So something that will give me a scholarship. I need something with a small class size, because that one-on-one teacher student relationship is really important to me in order for me to learn and reinforce that learning. And then I didn't want a huge campus, because I didn't want to take a damn bus to go to my class. I wasn't about that. So I needed something really close, something that was in walking distance. I apologize if you can hear that. There's construction in the background. But so that, like, choice led me to Harrisburg University, and obviously what drew me in was the free application. I didn't have to pay for an application, so I just sent that. No SAT score. I did pretty not that good on the SAT score, so I was like, I'm gonna get in. I got it. That was the only school I applied to, and if I could go back in time, I wouldn't just apply to Harrisburg University, but I got in, and then I went to Harrisburg University. It was the one and only school I got accepted to because it was the one and only school that I applied to. And, I was pretty set on it.
Well, now you can boast about having 100% acceptance rate. So
Yeah.
kudos to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, it looks like HU definitely checked off all your boxes. We're a small campus. You don't need a bus. Pretty cheap, pretty affordable. I'll say affordable, so a little more classy.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about your hometown and what is that other university you mentioned? Because I personally have never heard about it. So if you want to talk about that a little bit more.
So I live in Edgewater, New Jersey, and Edgewater is, as I was growing up, I considered myself middle class. But as I've been growing up in the same town that I've lived in for 20 years, I've realized that this town is very high class. I have like $2.5 million homes in this neighborhood. I'm starting to realize the suburbanness of where I live. And I've gotten that, realization from going to Harrisburg because, it's way different from living in a suburb. So I kind of got that reality check. And I guess going to Rutgers, which is the university that I was talking about, Rutgers is a D1 school. You see them in like college football. I don't know sports really. I just know college football. But they're pretty huge. It's huge. You have to get a bus to campus. It's like there's a million buildings. There's one in a couple towns, like Harrisburg is in Philly and HU is in Philly and then HU is in Harrisburg. So there's a couple campuses for Rutgers, but they're always so big and you're more of a number than a name there. So I didn't want that. And I didn't want to, I don't know, I just wanted to go somewhere else. I just wanted to be away from high school. So yeah, that's why I went to Harrisburg.
Yeah, and you mentioned if you could relive that application process. So you in high school, what would you do differently just to give our viewers at home maybe some insight into what it's like to navigate the college application process?
Yeah, it's time consuming, but you also the stress that you have that's put on you in order to apply, that's real. Like go with that stress and apply to however many colleges you can because just applying to like 3, you don't have that many options. You want as many options as you possibly can, and you want the best offer out there because if you apply to 4 schools, they may all give you scholarships, but one of them may give you more money than the other one. So it depends on what you want in a school, but you should apply to as many as you possibly can, and free ones if you possibly can, because you want to save that money. But you should definitely take the time to do it. You should take the time to, if you can, get some SAT or ACT score, as you possibly can in COVID days. But yeah, it's difficult now in COVID to apply, especially when you need to visit the school before you go, especially if you want to get that feeling. Like visiting the school is very important to me, especially because you want to get that vibe. So it just try and take as much time to do that as you can.
All right, and Stephen, do you have any additional questions on those?
Yeah, so I was very interested about Rutgers. I mean, I know of the college. I never knew it was that big personally. That was kind of interesting to learn about how big Rutgers is. And I also love that you were trying to go outside the norm of what your school is like doing in terms of sending everyone to Rutgers. So that was like the same principle for me, where everyone was like, "Hey, everyone's going to go to Temple." So I'm from Philadelphia originally, but you want to do something different and everything. And I really like that, the whole idea of being different. Because I was going to ask you about the whole transition from from high school to college. and kind of talk about that, because for a lot of people, that whole transition, because you spoke on the culture shock you had, so I kind of want to talk about your transition from, okay, I graduated from high school, I'm a senior to now freshman college. How was that for you?
Yeah, I'd love to talk about that because honestly, that period of my life was maybe the weirdest, the saddest, the most in the anticipation of my life. Like, I'll be honest with you, like I've suffered from depression for a long time. So I didn't even think I was going to live past 18. So honestly, that whole like mindset, I was like, I'm going to apply to one school. I don't really care if I go to college. I'm not even going to live to go to college. So at that point, I graduated. I got into Harrisburg University and I said, oh my God, I'm going somewhere without my parents in 4 months. What the hell am I going to do? So um, I stayed up until like 7 a.m. I would stay up for so long because I wanted to live my life before I got to college because I thought college was going to be like the literal end of my life. Like I had no idea what was going to happen as soon as I hit Harrisburg. So it was mostly filled with just being nervous. I would cry a lot, like especially the week before we went to Harrisburg. I was a mess. I can't even remember because I was so sad. I was really crying every single night. The night before we went to Harrisburg, I was just so sentimental. I told everyone like I'll talk to you, blah blah blah. And then got to Harrisburg. I moved into my dorm. I met my roommate at the time, and I was like, I'm I'm still alive. Like I'm normal. Like I'm living. I'm breathing. Okay, cool. And then as you do at any college, as soon as you get there, you go and party. So you get wasted. You smoke. You do whatever because you're a freshman in college. You're gonna do that. So, and HU is definitely not, a saint from that. So, um, you do that and then you become so comfortable with it. And then you're like, wait, I was sad about this. I was sad about coming to college. There's really nothing to worry about because you meet people that are like you. You meet people that are like you when you're drunk, so they like you even more. And then you go and you get more drunk. So it was so fun when I first got to college, and I shame myself for worrying about it because it was really harmless. And I made a bunch of friends, and then I hung out literally every single day that whole week. I don't even know. It was just a whirlwind of like positive emotions if I could reassure people who are transitioning right now, just it'll be okay. Your life is going to be fine. You're going to be completely fine. It's just you're going to a different place. That's it.
Oh man, I'm gonna be real. I was like, yo, that's crazy. Cause I'm thinking there's some of our guests, they talk about the transition. They're like, oh yeah, that was it. You just kind of blew me out the waters with that one. Like, I mean, damn. This is the first time I'm shook on this on the HU Flow people. It's okay. I'm cool. But so your transition was pretty interesting. It was like a roller coaster from what I'm
Yes.
understanding of it. And I think that is like some real reality stuff that you guys at home need to know about. It ain't easy becoming a freshman. Everyone thinks differently. That culture shock, especially, is gonna hit you fast. Look, just because, oh yeah, I was in the city life, my city life is crazy. You go to college, it could be a whole nother ball game. Just understand that, people. So okay, your transition was a pretty interesting roller coaster. Your freshman year was a mixture of, okay, that social life was living for you from the sounds of it. You're talking about parties, talking about all that stuff, drinking, all that stuff. And yes, we're no saints here. Every university does it. It's just the way they talk about it's different. But obviously, kind of while we also talk about social life, how about your academics during your freshman year? How was that for you? How was the adjustment for you on that?
So, funnily enough, I still somewhat feel like high school was harder. Um, Harrisburg University is very, very much a joke in terms of its gen ed classes. It's so much of a joke. Really, you could probably fall asleep in the class and you could learn and retain all of the information. You'll be okay. At least that was for me, but I'm typically a good student. I thrive when I procrastinate. I can sleep and do work. I'm very versatile, but high school molded me. I definitely believe that wherever you came from in high school is going to impact how you do in college. I'm really strong in English, in writing, pretty strong in math, awful in history, which is why I don't, history doesn't matter in HU, thank God. But somewhat. But yeah, no, definitely having that solid foundation in writing and English, that will get you very far in Harrisburg. So my grades, like my GPA right now is a 3.86, which is good, very good. So it's not, if you try, you will succeed. But if you don't try, you won't. And that's simply how it is.
I mean, okay, so you're hitting some points there for sure, especially with the I think we don't have a history major at university where we're a STEM school, tech, science, so we don't really touch history, people. Just so you guys know, and she's kind of also hitting on the point because here's the thing, people, your gen eds in college are just stuff you learned in high school. As long as you remember that stuff, they're easy classes to pass. With the way she's talking about it, it's kind of reality. But if you weren't that great in high school, then it's going to be hard for you. Mm-hmm. So this is just honest say. So basically, when I'm hearing, Faith, your freshman year was kind of a breeze on the academic side. So you wasn't worrying as much. Then your social life was thriving. So then, okay. So let's kind of jump into then your sophomore, then your current junior year, because there's a big difference between your sophomore and junior year because of COVID. Sophomore year, you were on campus. You had that experience of being in, with your major. I'm assuming you did lab work and stuff like that. So let's talk. I wanted to hit on the lab work a little bit. So what were some of the stuff you guys did for labs?
For before COVID or now?
Before COVID, because I know the situation with actually now mentioning it. Let's how was the lab experience like before COVID? For this question, just name like one lab that you did, and now after. How's COVID with lab experience?
Okay. So the lab experience, it's really not that hard at the beginning. They very much ease you into it with the general chemistry, general biology courses. They teach you how to use the microscope. They teach you lab safety, how to pipette, to remembering a lab that we did. We do such easy like high school labs in the general chemistry. It's just typically what you learn about, just like ions and like electricity, just simple stuff like that. I think one time we tried to light up a little light using wires in a potato, stuff like that. So the labs were very hands-on, very hands-on. The professor would come to your table, and your lab partners, they would interact with you. They would tell you what you're doing wrong, what you're doing good, give you some suggestions. It was very hands-on and independent if you knew what you were doing, but if you didn't know what you're doing, you very much heavily relied on your lab partner, which hopefully they know what they're doing, because if you both don't know what you're doing, it's not going to be good. So definitely study before your labs and do your lab work. Yeah, that's typically how it was. And you want to know about how it is during COVID, or?
Yeah, because I know this obviously with the safety being a factor with your health and everything. I know lab experience isn't the same. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to hear about how's that going for you with the current lab experience right now.
So I'm taking 2 labs right now. I'm taking biochemistry lab and anatomy and physiology lab. So both of those labs, you can probably imagine, are very hands-on if we were there. But unfortunately, we're not there. So what we do instead is synchronous Zoom meetings, Microsoft Team meetings, and we just kind of sit there and we talk about the theory behind what we would have done. Sometimes they link simulations, websites with simulations. They link YouTube videos. Oh, this is what we would do if we were there. Stuff like that. And then they would have you answer questions about what they did, what equipment they used, how much of this do you need, do the calculation for how much you need. So you're doing the lab without doing the lab. So they did pretty good with that. I understand what they're doing. And actually in my biochemistry lab class, the professor is allowing students to come to HU if you sign a waiver and all that, and you can do the experiment. I'm not participating in that because personal reasons. I can't go to Harrisburg just on a whim. But yeah, they're doing good with it. It's not the same as being hands-on. You don't get that hands-on learning, but you still learn about the technology, the methods, and the theory behind the lab.
Right. One more question before I pass it back to Marilyn. So, one of the biggest things right now in the current atmosphere we're in is COVID, among other things, because right now, as we're recording, it's election week here. And so a lot of people are nervous about that. But on top of that, something we've been nervous about since early 2020 is the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, the kind of to talk about that a little bit, for you, when you got word of it and when I got word of it, it was back in March with everyone else. They were telling us, oh yeah, we got to shut down the schools, and that was probably a big shell shock of a moment for a lot of us. And then as we steered we got to a semester where it was all online. Mm-hmm. So kind of talk about your experience with online classes. And in particular, I want to ask you, is it like, for you personally, I know everyone learns differently online, some good, some bad. How has the experience been for you? Has it been a struggle? Has it been how's it been going for you?
So when I first got word of it in March, I was dorming because I'm 3 hours away from Harrisburg, so of course I have to dorm. So when we first got word of it, I remember I was in class and I started to cry because I was like, I'm going to have to move all of my stuff within 2 days into a U-Haul unit, and then I'm going to have to go home and I'm going to have to do school. But I have the worst moving anxiety. So I was like freaking out because I was going to have to just up and leave. But thankfully the school had the offer of letting us stay. So, I stayed in the dorm for the beginning of COVID, and I left in late April. So the beginning of the online classes, I didn't even really take it seriously because it was the end of the semester. My effort was already running low. So I like BS'd it really. I got good grades. So, it was online and it was the end of the semester. So that mix wasn't really good for my willpower to continue. And then in order to succeed and be on the right path for my major, I had to take organic chemistry in the summer. So that was virtual. I passed with flying colors because it was online, but if it wasn't online, I don't even know. I don't know. But that was one class and I passed with flying colors. Juggling 7 classes online in my house where I have to babysit a 7-year-old, put him on Zoom, do some of his homework, worry about my home life, worry about like my parents' health because if God forbid they get COVID, it's not going to look good for me. It's worried about COVID just in my general neighborhood, just worried about so many other things. And then my 7 classes that I have to be on at a certain time, not get off until a certain time. It's been hard. It's been real hard. My grades have taken a hit from that. It's just more so time management and like the willpower that I was saying, it's really willpower to sit yourself in front of the computer for however many hours and just do work and think. And you can't really let the election get to you, let COVID get to you, let your life, your boyfriend, your friends, you can't let that get to you because you're just going to be so distracted with your work. So, online classes are very stressful in the way that your mind is just going to be everywhere. And, depending on how many you have, it may be more manageable, it may be less manageable. And yeah, that's really it. It's just about managing your time and trying not to let other things affect you. But we're all at a very sensitive point of our lives where it's going to affect you.
I mean, I think that is very true. I think you really kind of touched on the nutshell what every, not just here at HU, but every college student in the U.S. and around the world is facing in similar cases. Because like online out of nowhere, okay, you make that minor adjustment here, but for a whole semester, guys, that's where it gets very tricky, and that is where you'll, and also wherever you live, it can be very different. Like you said, you were talking about, you got a little kid. You got to make sure he gets on his Zoom calls. You got your family, worry about this, that. There's so much going on in the mind. Where's that moment where he's like, relax, breathe a little bit, And that is decent points to hit. But Marilyn, back to you.
So, one thing you talked about or touched on was mental health. And that's something we like to bring up with a lot of our guests here because mental health, when you go to college, is especially important. It's important throughout all of your life, but in college, you can definitely put it to the side or get overwhelmed very easily. So, Faith, are there any ways that you found help with your mental health in HU, or even that you've struggled and are continuing to struggle, or your journey right now? How is that looking for you in this pandemic time?
Um, yeah, mental health it's very important to me. But as much as it's important to me, I very much put it on the back burner because I mental taking care of your mental health is so time consuming, especially if you're so far gone. It's like, why even care about it? That's where I am right now. I'm okay. I'm okay. I think, because I'm not really thinking about it. So I think I'm okay, but taking the time out of your day to take care of yourself is incredibly important. Don't ignore how I am, but just focus on who you are. If you know you can't work to your fullest potential the way you are because your mind is so jumbled, sit there and go through, okay, what is problem number one? What is plaguing me the most? And work through it. You can work through it. You can work through whatever is in your mind, especially if you can't fix it. The election stress, that's getting everyone. But ultimately, you can't change that. So don't try and sit there and, you know, be a nervous wreck about it, even though we all want to and are realistically we are going to. But it's the mentality of, I shouldn't just sit here and shut down. I gotta progress. I gotta succeed. So having that positivity and that you want to progress, you want to continue, I think that's very important. And in the end, that benefits your mental health because you say, hey, I was going through a really shitty time. Like, I really am not doing good, but I still have the potential to do my work. I still have the potential to, make my goals become real and fulfilled. So I think that going through and doing as much as you can when your mental health is down, and then I think that will help it, grow and be better.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a struggle for everyone, and we all process it in our own way. So that's important to remember. Also, many universities have mental health resources, whether they're counselors. At HU, we have free counselors that students can access. And we've heard from several students that those counselors have been very helpful for their mental health. So definitely, if you're applying to a university, look in and see what mental health resources your university offers. On another note, Faith, what are some things about Harrisburg that you really miss? If there's anything, maybe you have a favorite spot or that you go to. Tell us about it.
Marilyn, you know my favorite spot in Harrisburg University. You know where it is, and that's Savon's room, but that's fine. Um,
Where do you guys like to go together?
we go to his room.
I know.
No, okay. The places that I miss in Harrisburg the most. Freshido. If you like sushi and you like poke bowls, you must go to Freshido whenever Harrisburg University kickstarts the face-to-face classes again. No, like going to Harrisburg, I miss going and walking to the river. I miss just like looking at it being calm, just chilling. It was really nice to go there, especially during like the sunset and just getting that nice breath of fresh air. Although you can't really do that right now, but it'll come again. Just I, go sitting with friends and being with friends or boyfriends if you have them. That's just it's nice. It's nice to have that comfortableness next to someone who also shares that quote unquote hatred with the school. Not hatred, but I don't engage with the school that much. It's okay. Just being with that certain someone who gets you and just sitting there and watching the TV, that was the most comfortable part of Harrisburg. I wasn't really a party animal after freshman year because it got so boring. I was like, oh yay drinks, oh yay weed, oh yay boys who try and hit after one night, yay. It gets boring. So just being comfortable and happy where you are in a single place, that's what was comfortable to me.
Yeah, that's a great point. I like how you touched on the parties because I feel like it's a huge stereotype when you go to college that you get to party all the time, you get to be away from your parents, yeah, but parties can get boring and sometimes you got to look past um the nights of partying and find out what other things are really cool at your college. Um, so I don't know if I necessarily have another question. Nothing's coming to mind at this moment. So Steven, take it away.
Okay, so I like how we all hit on the stereotypes with the parties because, like, I'm gonna be real with you people. Stop believing what you see on Netflix about college life. Okay, stop looking at movies just thinking, oh yeah, it's a party scene all the time. No, it's not. Y'all gotta really understand, college is not just about social atmospheres with parties and stuff. It's also about finding who you are as a person. It's like the big reset button. No one knows you. So how you find yourself is up to you now, And also you're on your own. No one's there to hold your hand. You're by yourself. And I think that's scary for some people, especially if you've been I forgot the word I'm using, is that thing where basically your parents keep you in a box all your life. Sheltered.
Sheltered. Yep.
Yeah. But it's going to be scary for you, sheltered people. But for anyone who's just trying to become someone new or just figure themselves out, college is a spot. So Faith, you talked a lot about the academics, but I want to focus a little bit more on the social atmosphere a little bit because academics we think we covered a lot, especially around your major and what you entitled to, and that's really good to know, especially for those who are interested in stuff that Faith does. Be sure to do the research around the university you want to pick for STEM because STEM is a very important thing to do, especially if that's your field of work. So in the social factor, we always bring up the concept around cliques, and I don't know if you're familiar with that term.
Of course I am.
Okay, just making sure. I had one guest did not know what that means.
Okay.
So we had to like break it down, but they kind of broke it down. They were like, "Oh, I know what that is," but they call it something different. So, but yeah. So at any university, you have cliques, and these cliques has this narrative of basically once you hang around these cliques, those are your people for life, right? Do you believe in that narrative? And if not, why don't you believe in it?
Oh, thank you for giving me the if not. Um, so I'm gonna describe what my freshman year was like in terms of cliques. So, um, if you are planning to go to HU or if you do go to HU, you typically engage in group chats before you even go, and then you get an opportunity to talk with people in the same major who are going to Harrisburg University in the same grade level as you, and you get to talk and you get to be like, oh hey, I'm from here, this is my major, hey, you want to be roommates, like that's how the conversation sometimes goes. But when you get to college, meeting different people, you're always going to be like, it's sensory overload as soon as you get there, because you're like, oh, I want to meet everyone if you're like that, or I don't want to meet anyone if you're like that. So if you don't want to meet anyone, it's gonna be shocking. But if you want to meet people, you're gonna talk to everyone. And that's how I was. I wanted to talk to everyone because I was the sheltered kid in high school, but as soon as I got to college, I felt like a social butterfly. I just opened up, and it's gonna be like that sometimes. But if you do that, just be careful, because you make friends, you make all these friends, and then suddenly you have a clique. And some people are closer in that clique than others. Some people don't like other people in that clique, but they stay in that clique for other people, if you get my gist, whatever. And if you have that big clique with weird social dynamics, it's not going to last. Those are not your friends for life. Being in freshman year, I had that clique where I didn't even really enjoy the people that I was with. I only talked to them because they talked to me, and then they kept me company sometimes. But when I heard the things that they were saying and I saw the way that they acted, it was like, I'm with a bunch of kids. This is not who my friends are going to be for the rest of my life. These are friends to have fun with. And that's who you're going to encounter for a little bit. You're going to encounter friends that just want to have fun. You're going to encounter friends who are just academic friends, class friends. They're only your friends in class. You're going to meet your roommate, who may or may not be your friend. It depends on how that dynamic goes. It's just, it matters who you are and who you're interacting with. If you don't like the way that interaction is going, stop it. Just go on to the next person. And then if you don't like that one, just stop and go on to the next person. And for me personally, from college, I haven't met anyone who's like my friend for life. I have a best friend who I met in high school, and nothing is ever probably going to compare to that relationship that I have. And I just feel like some of the friendships there are not as meaningful as the ones that I had in high school. And I just think that's because of who I am and who the people at Harrisburg University are, in my perspective. And I just don't want to be friends with those types of people after experiencing what I experienced in freshman year. So it's very much a learning process. Who your friends are going to be. Don't just rush into relationships of any kind, because that can land you in a place where you don't want to be, and tensions that are going to rise, and you don't want that. So just think about who you're talking to.
Basically, yeah, cliques, they happen, and I've been in them. I was in groups that I didn't like some people, and now I'm not in those groups, and I made great friends. Faith and I are friends, and I like how you talked about the compartmentalization, I'll say, of friendships. Because I also have my best friend I met in high school. We've been friends since middle school, but our connection, like, we're gonna be lifelong friends. I definitely resonate with, not everyone at HU is someone that I feel like I'm going to be lifelong friends with. I'm friends with them right now, and we have great friendships. But time will tell where they go, you know? So that's very important to remember, is you don't need to force a friendship. It'll happen. And when you vibe with somebody and you click with somebody, there you go. It doesn't have to be in college. That, it might be in your workplace. It might be someone older than you, it might be someone younger than you, and you're just great friends. And that's awesome. And that'll happen. So yeah. Steven?
Okay, I feel like I was getting attacked for being called old, but it's okay. I'm like 2 years older than you. It's fine. Um, but yeah, I love your answers to clicks, because regardless, yes, we're a small school. We have we have clicks just as much as big schools does. But the only difference is big schools, there's over hundreds of thousands. Whereas small schools, there's only a few thousand or even less than that. So keep that in mind. Also, college size matters, people. Just keep that in mind. So we've talked a lot about you, your social life, your academic life. Now you are, as you said earlier, a junior. About a year from now, you're going to do this thing called graduating. So that's probably going to be another life-defining moment for you. A little bit of nerve-wracking because then it's like adult life. Oh no! So before we get into that part, do you know, and it's okay if you don't. Do you know what you want to do after you graduate college?
So I know that for what I want to do right now, graduating college isn't the end of my college career. I'm going to have to look into a graduate school. Now, whether I want that to be from HU, that's still being decided in my mind. I feel like it's going to end up being yes, only because I know that they may give me some benefits of some kind, but you know, um, I just want to be secure in the way that I'm progressing in my career. I don't want to make a mistake. I've already come so far. So I do know that I need to go to graduate school after I graduate. When that is, I don't know if I want to take a gap year just to like breathe. Like I need some break from this academic life. I need to go and work somewhere. I need to make some money. I can't sit here and think about classes. I just I don't know directly what's gonna happen. I just know the blueprint.
I mean, that's good to know because the thing is, because we've had some more guests talk about, okay, some of us want to take a gap year because, like, let's be real here, college life is stressful. Even not even just college, like education life for a lot of people, especially in science, that have to go to grad school, is stressful. They need that moment to breathe, and a lot of times they don't get those moments. You know, there's always, okay, you graduated, grad school, that's next. No, it's okay to take a year off, especially after you just graduate. If you can find a good job that pays well, and if it's not in your field, I mean, it's whatever you can that helps you pay the bills. Because for anyone at home, when you graduate college, especially if you took out loans, you're graduating with about a good portion of debt. Depending on how much the debt is, depending on how much money your school costs with tuition and board, that's its own principle that you need to figure out when you're applying, or if you're trying to come back or something like that nature. Now, Faith, with you, you said you gotta go to grad school. So like, not really, 'cause you don't know what you want to do yet after graduation. But what's the end goal? What is that career path that you want to follow?
So not realistically, ideally, I would like to, as soon as I'm done with grad school, hopefully I'll get hooked up with a job where I may or may have not interned at. I may just apply to the same place I interned at because, that's experience. They know how I work. So if I can set myself up with that, then I think I'll be good. And I can talk about career development in that company as we go. But that's what I want to do. I want to stick with a company and I just want to grow with that company, um, if I can, because then that will reap me the best benefits because I've been there for long, and being somewhere for long gets you benefits. Good.
That is true, you know. But if you're there from the day one, they're gonna be like, you've been here since day one. We're gonna give you some love right over here. I respect that. Growing with the company versus going from point A to point B to point C is way better. Also, you got to think about long term the city you're going to be in. You know, are you going to be in America? Like, where's the destination? There's a lot of stuff to think about after you graduate. But I think a lot of people just assume that you got to think about that shit right now. No, you don't. You can take time. It's okay to go back home and live with mommy and daddy. Just depending on your situation, that could be not a reality. But like, approach everything when it comes to after graduation with caution. Breathe a little bit because you
Mhm.
deserved it. You graduated. That's the first thing. So you know, we near towards the end of the little HE Flow episode. Marilyn, do you have anything you want to add on before I ask my final questions?
So, what was that position like for you? Tell us about it.
So, being a student ambassador, you work the open houses, you do private tours, you do school tours. When I say tours, I mean, you tour through the school, you hit the major locations, If it's a private tour, you ask the student, hey, what's your major? And then you take them to the classrooms where they'll be in the most for their major. I can take them, and I take them to the library, to the labs, to like the 14th floor where you can see the whole second street, and the bus stop. And then you just mark the important locations around the town and in the school. For open houses, you just direct the people where they need to go. You float around and you ask questions like, hey, how are you? What's your major? Is there anything I can help you with? Any questions about the school? You're supposed to have a solid foundation of where every location is in the school. You're supposed to know just a general idea of what every major does. Yeah, you're just supposed to know things about the school, and you're essentially selling the school to whoever is going to that tour.
So what is that like for you, or why did you choose to be a part of that, when you have your viewpoints and maybe unpopular opinions about HU? Is it something that's important to you?
Well, okay. So when I applied, I was a freshman in my spring semester. So at the time, I didn't really have these like negative views on Harrisburg, but I wanted a position where I would get like my name out there, and it looks nice on a resume being a student ambassador for a university. So, that's also why I applied for it. But I also very much like to be candid and honest with the people who are asking me questions, who are putting their faith in me to tell them about the school that their child is going to. I find that very important. I'm not gonna lie to you because you have money. I'm not gonna lie to you because why would I lie to you? Why would I just fabricate all these nice things about a school that may not be nice for you and your child? So, I try to be as honest as I can with them. Mm-hmm.
I
Parents.
think a lot of parents really appreciate that, especially because you can say whatever you want about all these great Ivy League schools, but we've never been at them, so we don't know what goes on behind the scenes. But we can guarantee you there's stuff going on behind the scenes that students aren't happy with. It's the same for any university. We're just very upfront here at HU Flow, and we want to let you know what's going on at HU. There's some great stuff going on here, and then there's things that can be improved, and that's the same with any university. So with that being said, Stephen, do you have anything to close us off with?
So the last question I'll go into, because Marilyn hits on the point. HU Flow, we're all about just being honest with you guys, having an honest conversation. We don't want you just to pick our school based on all the good. You have to have a little bit of both. If you don't, then you're just like really no point of view, because you're not making a decision fully on both sides of the spectrum. But my last question I'll ask is, Faith, for those making that transition, especially with COVID, to college, or even thinking about it, what type of advice would you give them if they were even just thinking about coming to college in this current atmosphere we're in right now?
I think it's very important to just think about your workload. I think it's also very important to think about what the school is doing during COVID, what their plan is for COVID, if this continues into the new year, which it most likely will. So you really got to think about, can I even do this right now? Can I sit at a computer for 9 hours and can I listen to my lectures? And if you can't, maybe it's better for you to not go to college this year. Or if you do go to college, don't necessarily go to the university that you're going to pay a lot of money for. What you should really do is invest in community college degrees for your associates, or just, I guess, a year. I don't even know if you can do a year, but it's better to get your associates at a community college, especially now, because it's the same exact education that you get paying $20,000 for, whereas you don't have to spend that much money at a community college and get, you know, that same education. And I feel like community colleges do it better online because they already have some online approaches to those degrees. So if you can, I am very much money focused. I think about the money always because that's my ultimate goal in life, is to have a lot. So I think about how to save it. And if you are like me, then take my advice and please go and try and go to community college now and get that education that you can get for less money.
Awesome.
And if you can't handle it, don't go to college, because it's a lot. It's stressful, very stressful.
You're not wrong. I mean, as someone who recently just graduated, I mean, I'm not gonna lie and say it was the easiest experience my 4 years. I have my ups and downs, but I think you really hit on a lot of key points, in especially when it comes to just overall experience that you've had at HU, and just how you've been managing through the COVID pandemic with everything. And it seems like it's been a time for you, and we wish you the best of luck in whatever you're doing, you know, and we'll definitely keep our eyes on you. And in case of any future episodes, we have you back on to talk about even more stuff. With that being said, that is the end of the video. And if you made it this far to the end of the video, we love you. We appreciate you. As always, follow us, subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit that red button right there, you know, or wherever it is located. Make sure you hit that bell too, so you can stay notified of everything we do here as part of HU Enrichment. Now, as always, my name is Steven. That's Marilyn. And your guest, 50anna. Thank you for coming on again. It's been awesome having you. And until next time, guys, peace out.